days, and then QuiltCon was 4 days long, and then two-day drive back home. So it was exhausting.
That's exhausting. Yeah.
But the quilt shops are where I want to, focus my energies, and I'd like to sell wholesale to them. So I'm focusing on markets. There is a big show here in Wisconsin in September every year called Wisconsin Quilt Expo, and it was started by Nancy Zeman of Sewing with Nancy, and who just recently passed away this year. But I've been doing a booth there for 3 years now, and I'll continue to do that one just because it's 20 miles from my home, and last year they had 21,000 attendees.
Wow, that's a lot.
So
that's amazing. Yep. It's so amazing how big this business is. Just amazing to me. The numbers are amazing, right?
Yep.
That's a lot for one show, and 50,000 here, and you just see these numbers are huge. So when you design something, take me through the. Who are you designing for? Are you designing for what's your process? Who are you designing for? How long does it take? I'm trying to understand sort of the sort of how much sort of labor are you putting into this? In terms of that, and then sort of the economics of sort of people who create patterns. That's kind of where I'm going with this question.
I design mostly for myself. I design quilts that I would want to make because I don't want to make the very long, involved quilts. I want something that is relatively fast, that I can get done fast. So those are the types of quilts that I want to make, and it's also the types of quilts that fit on my postcards. I can't have really detailed quilts because there's no way I could write the instructions for those to fit on the postcard. But I am designing something that I want to make, and hopefully others will want to make those too. It's probably more of the beginner and intermediate, like you mentioned before.
Yeah.
But also someone who's a little more modern inclined or contemporary, likes a little more negative space, or some of my designs are kind of off-centered a little bit. So those are the types of quilters that I'm focusing on. And as far as process, I usually sketch, like maybe a block or a layout, and just kind of play around with them for a couple weeks, like a couple months, whatever. And if inspiration strikes, then I go to the computer and I draft everything in the computer. I use Corel Draw. That's kind of the Adobe Illustrator's poor brother.
Yeah.
But I learned to use that back in college 25 years ago. So that's what I've been using. But I sketch everything out in Corel Draw and print those off, and then I make the quilts for myself to see if they work. Send them off to pattern testers who test for me and check for any grammatical or mathematical errors, things like that. So
with the pattern testers, are they friends? Do you have to pay them? Or are they just excited to be able to get a new pattern? Sort of, how does that work exactly?
Excuse me. Yeah, it's mostly friends and people that I know, or people that my mom knows in her quilt shop that sew samples for her, that like to do pattern testing. And I haven't paid anyone yet. But if in the future I need to, hire someone that I don't know, or that is like a professional pattern tester, then that's something I might look into. But for now, I just have friends.
Is there professional? I have to see. I'm at the beginning of this project. Now I want to know. I want to experience the professional pattern tester. I think that would be a little scary. Like somebody would be they would know. There'd be a very high bar with a professional pattern tester.
Well, I don't think there's anyone that does pattern testing strictly for a living, but there are people that test patterns and are very good at it, and they do expect compensation for it.
Right, because Well, I guess it makes sense if you were doing like really complicated patterns and people are
Yeah.
going to be making a lot of money off of the pattern that, you should be compensated. That would make sense.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, hold on. So Purple Pineapple Studio. Why is it called Purple Pineapple Studio?
It's just two things that I like. I like purple and I like pineapple. When in my mom's town where she lives, there was a bead shop there that was called the Glass Onion, and they've since closed. But I always loved their name. I thought it was just so weird to have, a descriptor of something that obviously doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I wanted something a little offbeat like that.
That's really interesting.
So I just chose two things that I liked.
Well, it's very distinct, and the logo is really cute. That's very cool.
Thanks.
So when you do your wholesale business, you've got something on your website. When you go to the wholesale business, tell me a little bit more about sort of how that works. So if I click on here and I had a login, am I able then to just directly order off your website for the wholesale version?
Yes, it's basically set up exactly like the retail side, but it's password protected, so only the people that have tax ID numbers that have signed up for the wholesale side that I've approved can get the password and go to that, and then they order it directly off of there, and it is the prices are lower than on the retail side.
So it's interesting because so let me ask you a little bit about the economics, and you can answer as much as you want or not. So these patterns are very reasonable. They're $3.50. So, and you don't have a distributor right now. You're doing direct distribution. Am I right? So there's no middleman.
Yep.
Okay. So then and how much are the wholesale prices? Are they got to be like $2 or $2.50 or something? Like there's got to be a little bit. How much profit does I'm trying to understand them. So what I'm trying to understand is you don't have to tell me all your pricing if you don't want to. But what I'm trying to understand is how many postcards do you need to sell to feel like you've broken even on a particular design? And how much is the cost of printing it? So I'm trying to understand the economics of pattern making, because it seems like really hard to make a lot of, maybe it isn't hard to make money, but it's like, it reminds me of like a coffee shop. There's a lot of people have to come in to drink coffee to, and is that kind of your experience is, obviously you're doing well and you've got a lot of stuff, but where are you printing? Maybe I'll ask that. When you print these, because these are very glossy and nice and cool. How are you doing that now? Are you still at like a local print shop or like?
Yeah, I have it printed at a local print shop. The first, I think 2 patterns that I did, I had them printed somewhere online out in California, and the quality was fine. I liked it. It was great, but I kind of wanted to support a small business locally in my area, and I looked for someone that could do that for me. And his prices were about 10% higher than having it printed online, but I figured it was worth it because he is just a one-man shop, and I like not having them shipped all the way from California. So I have them printed there. He's in the Madison, Wisconsin area, and he does a great job. He has great customer service, and he's really good. So I'm very happy with that.
And how do you know how many to print?
I print in quantities of 1,000 just because that's a better price point than printing in a quantity of 500 or 250 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it really is not. It's not a lot of money. I figure I can eventually sell 1,000 of them.
Yeah. How many do shops buy at a time usually? Do they buy, and how many? Like, what's a typical order for a shop in terms of quantity?
My average order is about $80 from shops, and they usually order 6 of one pattern, a dozen of another pattern. Sometimes if they're doing a special event that they're using my pattern for, they'll order 40 of just one pattern.
Oh, like a class or something like that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Or strip clubs or some kind of club thing that they're doing.
Oh, that's cool. Do you and
But yeah,
guilds? This would be great for guilds too, right? Because it wouldn't be very expensive for a guild. Do you have guilds that want to buy them so they can?
nope, I haven't approached any guilds or done any of that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about the guild thing in just a second if you're cool with it.
Okay.
And then why postcards as opposed to online? There's a lot of online downloadable kind of pattern things. You're not doing PDFs. You're doing physical things, right?
Yep, I'm not doing PDFs, and again, that's a thing that I like. Again, I'm going back to I'm designing for me, and I've bought PDF patterns in the past, and I personally don't like printing them out myself, and then I just have the paper laying around, and they get lost and filed in my drawers and things, and it's just not something that I like doing. I like having a physical pattern with a pretty picture on it that I can keep, and that's not gonna it's not bad quality printing from my janky inkjet printer that's out of ink half the time. So
Yeah.
so I wanted to print something physical that I could sell to people. So that's why I went with postcards.
I imagine that I was thinking about the quilt shops and with your mom, or I would love to interview your mom or you and your mom about the quilt shop sometime. That would be really cool too. But it seems like if you're a quilt shop and you're buying these patterns, it's not a lot of money to buy a pattern, right? Because it's not. But where the shop's making money, I would imagine, isn't necessarily on the pattern, but on buying the fabric. Is that right? That for them, that's where the cost, that's what they're hoping to, is somebody comes like, that's what my daughter does. So and I'll let you answer. Yep. I know I've asked a question, but she sees things like this, like a postcard or some sort of one pattern, and she's bored in a shop, and then suddenly she's like, I want to make this. And so now we've bought $60 worth of fabric that she may or may not, end up using. But it's the getting them to buy the fabric from the pattern, right?
Yeah, exactly. And having a pattern that is so low in cost means they can buy more patterns from me. They can kit them up too, and like when they make kits of patterns, they have $60 worth of fabric in there, and mm-hmm. then they always include the pattern with the kit. So then you have a $70 kit with the pattern. Yeah. But if you're doing it's only a $63 kit.
Yeah.
And people are going to be more apt to buy that than the $70 one. So that's another reason that I like the postcards, and that the shops like the postcards. I have one wholesale customer that they don't have a physical shop. They just do kits, and they travel all around the country selling at retail shows. And they love the fact that, my patterns reduced the cost of their kits by $5 over other patterns. So yeah, the goal is to help the shops sell as much fabric as they can by enticing people to buy these, less expensive patterns.
Well, I think that I hadn't really thought about it this way, and I want to chat more about this strategy, because when you look at your patterns, like you can say, oh, okay, I need 4 of these and this color, and it's very clear what you need if you wanted to buy fabric, and that's not always true. I'm thinking some other people that we've interviewed where they're like, well, we need a computer program so that people can try out like all the different fabrics that go into these patterns. It's like, really? They're like, yes, really. And so this is the opposite of it. It kind of inspires people to go like, oh, I want to make the Starry Night, but I want to do it in like purples, right? So it allows them, I would imagine, to buy. There's less friction in buying. What do you think that in terms of sort of using your patterns?
Yeah, I think they're very approachable, and since you can see all the instructions on the card when you're looking at the fabric requirements that you need to buy,
it's right.
You're able to see where that fabric that you need to buy is going to go, so it helps you lay it out in your head better to purchase the fabric and to select the fabric when you're going around the shop not knowing what to buy. Whereas in other patterns, they just have the fabric requirements printed on the back page of the pattern, but you're not really sure where's fabric A gonna go and where's fabric F gonna go.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard. It's a little hard to envision in your head.
Yeah.